So going back even further now, so you were diagnosed quite young with ADHD.
I was, yes.
Is that normal? Like to be, I guess, to know from such an early age?
Good question. I don't actually know, because I think that, it's obviously so common for people to get diagnosed later on in life now. I'm sure there is a pool of people that were diagnosed when I was diagnosed, but I think that I definitely felt like I was on my own. I think my mum was in the medical profession, or is still, so I think I always grew up in an environment where I had a diagnosis for everything, and I was kind of put under a microscope a little bit, and it kind of turned me into have a bit of health anxiety as I got older. But I would say that, yeah, like getting diagnosed at the age of 11, I felt like I was on my own when that happened.
Yeah. And then when did you kind of realize that rather than having ADHD is like more of a, I guess, holding you back in life, but then reframing that to be like, okay, I can use this to my advantage? Is there a point in time where that made that switch, or was it just something else that you did on your self development journey? What was that like, that journey through?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, because I got diagnosed with ADD when I was 11, and that's not even a diagnosis, like it's not a separate condition anymore. It's a part of ADHD.
Okay.
So ADD is like attention deficit disorder, but the deficit and the hyperactivity are both part of it, and you can now either have like ADHD or, well, I wouldn't even say it's ADD or ADHD. That is like an umbrella, and then you can either have inattentive, hyperactivity, or combined.
And this is all under a bigger umbrella of neurodiversity.
And this is under yes, exactly. So I spent my whole entire life being like, I've got ADD or I've got ADHD, and it literally wasn't even until I was probably like 28 that I started, and it was my partner at the time. He was an online coach, and he was in the development space a bit like us, and I would just joke with him every so often and be like, I've got ADHD. And then I can't remember what the turning point was, but we started to like look into how that was actually affecting my life. And I honestly cannot tell you like the pivotal point, but I remember I started to look into how I could support myself with that and advocate for my needs a lot more, because I think I was just over the fact that I wasn't able to concentrate.
Yep.
And also really highlighted to me that if I wanted to make a go of the online space, I needed to train myself to be more attentive and more focused. So that kind of like sparked me to look into it a lot more. And then I think that was going back in 2022, so it wasn't even that long ago. And then I was posting the occasional bits and bobs on social media around ADHD, but I felt really uncomfortable about it. I felt like it was like a taboo subject.
Yep.
And yeah, I was quite embarrassed about having it. And also, it just felt like it wasn't something I was like shouting from the rooftops about, because I felt like it showed to other people that I was like incapable. And vulnerable, so vulnerable, Cam, exactly. And I think when I was 2022, and then when I started to build my online business, I went to a mentor that I was working with, and I said to them, guys, I've got ADHD, just to let you know, I need a bit of extra support. So I would say at that stage, I was in the stage that a lot of people are at on their journey with ADHD, where they almost feel like they have to over advocate for their needs a little bit, and they're like, I don't want to sound really horrible, but I was almost acting like a little bit of a victim of my condition.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I was giving excuses for it, but I almost looked at myself as this kind of weak character that needed all this support because I had this condition, and I felt, and I also used to give myself the identity of, oh, I'm a bit of a mess, I'm a bit of this, I can't do this, it was a different outlook on the whole thing. And then I spoke to the mentorship about it, and at the time I was looking to find the niche that I wanted to niche down with my online coaching, and they said, well, why don't you coach women with ADHD? And I said, well, hold up a minute here, like I don't even know how to look after myself,
yeah.
let alone other people. But even though that was an interesting journey at the time, it kind of then enabled me to go on my self-development journey, which then enabled me to reframe my mindset around it.
Just a quick announcement before we return to the podcast. If you're enjoying this episode of Midweek Motivation, you may be interested in checking out the Midweek Motivation newsletter, where every week I'll share with you a useful lesson on resilience, mindset, or fitness, or health in general, straight to your inbox. You also receive a free workout of the week, useful resources, and the latest videos that I've got up there. And just if you want to keep updated on my life, you'll find everything there. If you're interested in that, go ahead and hit the link in the description below, or go to Substack and search up Midweek Motivation. All right, let's return to the podcast.
And the more I learned about it, because that was another thing, there was a grieving period for me, I'd say as well, where, because at the time, even when I was, 28, I thought that ADHD was literally just me struggling to concentrate and just being a bit scatty.
Yep.
And then I was reflecting on, as I was learning more, oh, maybe that's why I couldn't not hold down a relationship. I don't believe that it was just on me, but, that's why I maybe had those issues. That's why I did this. That's why, oh my God. And it was almost like this light bulb moment. So even though I had that diagnosis and that identity when I was younger, it was almost like I was mourning that as I got older as well.
Yeah. So we all experience, loss of concentration or focus, maybe a bit of anxiety, maybe a bit of brain fog. How does that differ, from someone who doesn't have or hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD with someone who does? Like, what is maybe to help the audience get understanding of more what it's like to have ADHD? What are some sort of differences between what, say, a normal human would experience versus someone?
Yeah. So the difference between like a neurotypical person and a neurodiverse person. Really good question, because this is where it is such a controversial topic, because a lot of things that neurotypical people struggle with, neurodiverse people struggle with as well. You will experience, or other people will experience, rejection. You will experience brain fog. We live in a society that's so overstimulated and everything has to be done so
right
quickly.
And the fact that I think our attention span is just getting so much worse, with having content that's literally being drip feed into us all the time. That's making us on these big companies that use the apps, we get so distracted. Like, how do we know if what someone's just now has poor distraction? What would you just say? Is very distracted versus someone who is, I say, neurodiverse.
Yeah, and it is a very blurred line of, because like you said, and this is where the topic everybody has a bit of ADHD comes up, and that really pisses me off. So we'll have a chat.
I had a point on that.
Yeah, I can't deal with that comment. But to answer your question, so how I would describe it is that neurotypical people will be able to understand their limits. They will know when they are pushing too hard with work, or they are pushing too hard with certain things, and they will be able to maybe be more aware of that. Doesn't say that they're not necessarily immune to burnout and immune to all these things, but they may be able to have more awareness around it. They may be able to do things in a more logical order. They may be able to get out the house in a more strategic way. All of those things are things that neurotypical people would find a lot more straightforward, whereas somebody with ADHD or autism or any of the neurodiverse spectrum, so because there's a really big thing with neurodiversity where there's a common thing called cognitive dissonance, where if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So if it's not right in front of you on a big sticky note that you stuck on your forehead, it will literally not be happening.
Yep.
And that happens with us, with our awareness around our capacity. So, like for me, I will work until I'm debilitated.
Yep.
And that's not because I have an awareness around it. It's like I'm almost blind to it.
Yep.
I don't listen to the signals that my body has to tell me that I need to slow down.
Okay.
Whereas somebody who's neurotypical may have those signals more. So that would be the differentiation between me of trying to express how somebody is neurotypical or neurodiverse to some degree. And there's lots of different examples of that I could put out there. But I would say on like a physical pain level and a physical level, somebody with ADHD is going to experience a lot more physical symptoms than somebody who's neurotypical, because of our ability to be able to put our energy outwards a lot more in a higher capacity, but we have no cap on that.
I got it. Yeah. I think that's a really good clarification.